Hello again, everyone. Today I'm going to be sharing a video from my doorbell camera that shows two elders who came to my house on behalf of the body of elders to threaten me with excommunication from Jehovah's Witnesses if I was to pursue expressing my thoughts to any in the congregation. And so we'll get to that. But I do want to mention, I generally think it's in bad taste to record someone without their permission. I think it's even worse to hold them to the words that they say while being unknowingly recorded. And I think it's even worse to share it. That said, after the first conversation we had with an elder, the night I resigned from serving as an elder, my wife and I resolved that we wouldn't let an elder lie about what we had said ever again. So we've recorded every conversation we've had with elders for our own protection. I've told the elders multiple times that we wouldn't talk to elders without recording it, so they should know. I've made sure to obscure their faces and voices in this video, and I'm only sharing a segment in which an elder reads a prepared statement on behalf of the body of elders. So I hope I'm showing enough respect to these ones. But before we watch it, I'll explain the events that lead up to it. So over the last few months, I've expressed my concerns to some on the elder body. And no one else, other than family and the elders, I haven't expressed my concerns to anyone. But here's an example of one of those exchanges. So for those who don't know, the governing body, they recently sent a letter to elders explaining that baptized women should not be used for certain duties at the Kingdom Hall, like handling microphones, and that instead unbaptized young men could be used. And there's no scriptural reference given. So with that in mind, I sent a text to an elder and I asked, what scriptural basis is there for baptized females to be less qualified than unbaptized boys to carry microphones in a Kingdom Hall? 1 Corinthians 4:6. What would happen if a congregation chose to ignore the governing body's instruction in this regard? Matthew 15:9. If the slave in Matthew 24 was removing privileges from one group and burdening another without scriptural basis, would they be imitating Jesus? Compare Matthew 24:49, Matthew 11:30. His response? Wrong guy. I asked, what do you mean by that? His response was a reference to the elders' textbook, the section on apostasy, and a list of scriptures that Jehovah's Witnesses use to back up that charge. He said, "This will be our last text, 5 exclamation marks. I hope you find what you are looking for, but it won't come from me." So there's nothing particularly noteworthy about that exchange. It's very typical of what's happened when I've talked to elders. But I wanted you to understand how I would feel when this elder is one of the two that showed up uninvited at my doorstep. He'd ignored my question, called me an apostate, and then shunned me. I hadn't said anything negative about the Bible. In fact, my main concern was that the governing body wasn't acting in line with the Bible. So anyway, not long after this, I get a phone call from the coordinator of the body of elders, and they leave a message. Turns out there's 2 of them there. There's another elder. Neither of these are in the video. But anyway, I don't answer, and they leave a voicemail saying they're calling to talk. So I send a text message reminding him, the coordinator, that he's lied with me, he's been dishonest. I don't have an interest in talking to dishonest men, so if he'd like to apologize or send me the email he'd lied about, then we can move forward, but otherwise, don't bother calling again. Nonetheless, he did call again, so I asked him, I texted, "What's the nature of your call?" He said, "I have something to tell you on behalf of the body of elders." So I ignored it. I'd made myself clear I wasn't going to talk to him. He'd been dishonest. I wasn't interested. So now, days later, a couple elders show up at my house, again uninvited, and I'm at the pool with my daughter, so I'm not home at this time. My wife answers the door, and she lets them know that we don't invite elders into our home anymore. She's not going to let them in. This being because of the treatment we'd received. So they chose to wait on my doorstep until I got home, even though she didn't know when I'd be getting home. So anyway, I get home, come through the garage, And then now we can watch this 1-minute clip together to see what they had to say. The audio wasn't great in the first place, and because I'm trying to adjust it for their sake, it's really hard to hear. So I put some subtitles there. I hope it's okay. So let's take a look.
So you asked me what the elders wanted. Yeah, so I'm here to tell you. You're okay with that? Sure. Okay. So I made some notes because I wanted to get it accurate. So the elder body had disrespectful request. They said they don't want the words of Romans 16:17 to apply to you, which you can do later. So they would respectfully request that you don't pursue communicating your thoughts on how the governing body is wrong or the teachings of the witnesses are wrong to those on the elder body or the congregation. If you're looking for some help to find answers to doubts that you might have, feel free to reach out to your group officer, which is Karen.
Will they send that in writing?
They asked us to come and tell you. You know how it works.
And you should know how it works better than anyone, right?
Okay, so you'll notice at the end of that video, one of the elders said, referring to me, "You would know better than anyone." So I feel confident I can explain the purpose of their visit. First of all, when they mention Romans 16 and 17, what they're implying is that they would use that as a basis for the charge of apostasy, and they'd excommunicate me. And they're threatening that that's what's going to happen if I continue to communicate my thoughts on how Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong or the governing body is wrong to either elders or those in the congregation. They do mention I could contact my group overseer. And then I asked, well, could you send this in writing? They say, no, you know how it works. With a laugh, right? So first of all, if you find yourself in a group, whether it's religious or otherwise, that is threatening you and telling you you can't communicate your thoughts, whatever your thoughts are, that should concern you. By any definition of the word, you are in a high control group. They're showing indications of that for sure. Second, note that even in this prepared statement from the elders, like it's thought out, there's no mention of God or Jesus or the Bible. And there can't be, because I haven't said anything negative about God or Jesus or the Bible. So their charge is just about the governing body, which is interesting because that's my third point. Jehovah's Witnesses teach that the governing body is imperfect, they make mistakes, and they're not inspired. Yet it's forbidden to communicate any thoughts, even to elders, that the governing body might be doing things imperfectly or making mistakes, even if their actions are contrary to the Bible, which Jehovah's Witnesses say is the inspired word of God. That's concerning. And then finally, fourth, this point about the heavy emphasis on verbal communication. Right? I asked for it in writing, they say no. Ask yourself why the organization places such a heavy emphasis on verbal communication. All elders know about it. There have been many victims of this policy. So what about that group overseer I was allowed to contact? He wasn't just a friend. We're actually related by marriage, and our daughters were really good friends. But he had stopped speaking to me months prior. So I reached out to him. I thought, let's see what my group overseer would say. Was this a real offer? His reply began with, "Caleb, I truly feel for you. Why are you so focused on this organization that you have chosen to leave? I encourage you to move on and enjoy your life. Don't waste your energies on this. If it is not the truth, move on and look for it elsewhere." We exchanged some more texts, and he said, "What outcome do you want, Caleb, talking to me? So you feel I should leave this organization?" These thoughts, these texts, it's very common with what I hear from the elders. They want me to go away. They want me to stop causing trouble. They'll ask me to disassociate myself, to just move on. They'll try to trap me with words like that. Do you feel I should leave this organization? I want to be clear, I would never tell anyone to leave that organization. When you leave, you face dire consequences. I've experienced them, my family's experienced them, many who are watching this video have experienced them. I won't be carrying that burden, so that's a personal decision. I would never tell anyone to leave. But they're trying to trap me, so they have a reason to excommunicate me. So as you can see, the elder's offer that I could contact my group overseer was an empty one. He didn't answer anything I asked him. Nothing. They want me gone. So not long after this visit, I decided to make my first video on YouTube, so I could have a chance, hopefully, to show people the truth of my story before the congregation does label me as an apostate. Because once you're labeled as an apostate, that is one of the scariest things to Jehovah's Witnesses. It will prevent them from listening to anything that I have to say. So that pretty much brings us up to date, I think, with the elders, what's happened with them. But in my next video, I'd like to begin talking about our former friends and family and how they treated us through this time. Again, thank you so much for watching and listening, and to the many people who've reached out. It really means so much to us. Bye for now.